Hey, it's the Nerdy Sports Fan. We're talking NFL Draft. We're in the AFC South. I'm using the DraftNetwork.com's predictive board, and we're going for the Jacksonville Jaguars in this video. At pick number 7, I would think the most important position to upgrade on this team would be targets for Nick Foles. And here, you're going to be staring at TJ Hockenson, and I don't think any GM in the league with this group would be able to shy away from that man. TJ Hockenson makes a lot of sense for a team that really has not had a great tight end. I mean, they tried. They really have tried, okay? Julius Thomas was a bit of a failure. You could blame that on Bortles. Mercedes Lewis was good, not great. But yeah, they've never had that real premier talent, and not a lot of teams have, granted. But TJ Hockenson all of a sudden makes this a very dynamic receiving group. I personally think the wide receivers were a lot better than Blake Bortles showed them to be. So we'll see what DD does with a quarterback like Nick Foles, who is very obviously an upgrade to Bortles. Hopefully he can take that Eagles magic that he had to this team and bring them to the playoffs. I think personally he's a bit too streaky for that sort of thing. But yeah, fingers crossed. I'd like to see you guys getting back in that action. At pick number 38, I went with Greg Little, offensive tackle out of Ole Miss. Now, this offensive line wasn't bad. They were hurt, okay? But Greg Little is going to inject some life into this offensive line and get them back into the position that they were a few years ago when they had that dominant running game. Leonard Fournette needs to stay healthy. Best way to do that is to make sure his blockers stay upright and keep people off of the man. Now at pick number 69, you're going to have some edge rushing talent available that would have been picked up earlier in the draft in other years, simply because it's a very deep position. I went with Christian Miller, edge rusher out of Alabama. This is a guy that probably would have gone in the 40s or 50s in previous years. So at pick number 69 is a very big value pick at a position that, yeah, you could stand to upgrade. Obviously, you've got Calais Campbell on that defensive line, but people have been kind of picking it apart. Malik Jackson got taken out of there. So big edge rushing talent like Christian Miller would do very well for this defense, keeping it balanced and keeping it dominant. It needs to remain the strength of this team. That's your identity. You got to hold on to it. And pick number 98, I finally addressed the wide receiver position. Went with Dylan Mitchell out of Oregon, who's got size, he's got speed. He worked in a system where he had to do a lot of things, so he may not have mastery over the entire route tree, but he's got talent, and you don't necessarily need him to step in and do well right away. That's what you got Hockenson for. And Nick Foles, just having a better quarterback, will upgrade your receiving core. And again, DD, I think, was better than Blake Bortles showed him to be. So waiting this long for a wide receiver isn't really the end of the world. You've also got pick number 109, which is close enough to the top 100 to mention. And I went here with Michael Jackson, corner out of Miami. Now, those of you who are following the draft also know that there's a Michael Jordan out of Ohio State. And I would love to see both of those guys drafted by the same team. I think it's hilarious. But yeah, his name is probably the funnest thing about this player. Coming out of Miami, he had to play up against some pretty premier talent, but yeah, it's not the U anymore. They're not attracting the kind of defensive freaks of nature that they used to have on that team. But Michael Jackson is a serviceable corner. He can play a nickel role and do really well on special teams immediately. Jacksonville has a good amount of talent. They didn't have a good quarterback to allow it to show. This year, hopefully, with Nick Foles and players like TJ Hockenson coming into the fold, you'll be able to see exactly what they had down there. And I expect them to be a very tough out, if nothing else, this season.